What's up, everyone? It's Wednesday night. That means it is time for another episode of Mythic Conversations. Thank you all very much for joining me this evening, whether you are tuning in live and going to be part of the chat tonight, or whether you're part of the replay crew and you're catching this after the fact. Thank you all for supporting the channel, for supporting the show for all these years. It's episode 221 tonight. Absolutely incredible. And tonight we're going to be doing kind of a mid-year review. So as insane as this is, 2025 is just about halfway done. July 1st is next Tuesday, and that's the halfway mark of the year. So I thought it would be fun to kind of look back on the past 6 months, on the start of 2025 for Four Horsemen Studios and the Legions lines. And to do that, I'm bringing on my friend and yours. I got the shirt on here. Whoa! Thank you, everybody. Please welcome to the stage, Curtis. Curtis.
How's it going?
It is going very well. And yourself, my friend?
I am doing most excellent.
That is great to hear. So yeah, dude, 2025 is halfway done. How insane is that?
It's been a wild one so far.
It has.
I mean, obviously, if you throw a dragon in there, anything is going to be wild. But we've had a lot of stuff show up, and some stuff at shows and everything. It's been interesting.
Yeah. It's crazy because even though, as we're going to see, I think we've had a pretty incredible start of the year, I also feel like we haven't done a lot of really new things. Obviously, Bayathair is going to dominate the conversations for the first half of the year. It is such an epic action figure. But if you look at the other stuff we've released, we're going to see tonight, it's a lot of smaller offerings. And it's a lot of stuff that we teased or revealed at Legions Con last year, which is not something we typically do. Typically, what we do is we keep things really, really close to the vest, and we don't reveal anything until it's time for that pre-order to go live. So we did something a little different last year by revealing books and role-playing games and Infinite Legions and Legacies of Mythos. So much got revealed at Legions Con, Bayathair as well. And a lot of that we're seeing at the start of this year. So I love the fact that we've had such a great year so far. And I feel like what we've been doing, there hasn't been a lot of surprises yet. And it really sets the stage, I think, for the second half of the year. But we'll get to that. We're going to talk first about the reveals and the things we've seen so far this year. And as far as reveals go, Curtis, I believe you have a little reveal that you want to talk about this evening, if I'm not mistaken.
I do. I've got something I'm pretty excited about. Obviously, I've been into customizing since I joined this line. Your videos were some of the first ones that I just kind of dove down the rabbit hole, and all your little, tips and tricks and all this kind of stuff. And, was just super excited about. And now I've, built a YouTube channel around customizing, and we've been doing the customizing studio now for a couple of years, and I wanted to do something a little bit different for this year. So I went out on a limb, made a pretty substantial investment for me anyway, to bring something that I'm going to have available at Legions Con this year. So, and I thought what better way to show it is to show it now. Yeah.
I got some pictures. Can I bring up a picture?
Absolutely.
What? Tell us what we're looking at.
So this is a action figure customizing paintbrush set. So I have watched a ton of videos. I had zero artistic ability before getting into customizing. And so YouTube University was the way for me. And so watched a lot of videos, tried a lot of different things. Noticed that a lot of the painting videos were directed towards miniatures, not full figure, action figures like 1/12 scale. And so I messed around with a lot of different brushes, trying a lot of different things. And I wanted to try to put something out there that was really more for like 1/12 scale action figures. So I worked with a company that I've actually been using their brushes with for quite a while, and was able to put together a set that I felt like has all the necessary tools to kind of jump in and get started. And we've already gone through production, and they're getting ready to ship. I should have them in about a month. We'll go from there. So I'm super excited for this.
That's absolutely amazing. So these are going to be available at Legion's Con?
Yep, absolutely. I will be probably before Legion's Con. I'll be giving some out to just a few folks to kind of review and let me know what they think and stuff. I'll also probably be doing something with my channel. I'm gonna turn on memberships here soon. Probably $1.99 a month, and those people will have early access to it.
Nice.
But then, it'll be available for most people first at Legion's Con. And then afterward, Len is willing to carry them on Wolf King Customs.
Nice.
It'll cost a little bit more from Len than it will from a show because of, shipping and tax and all that.
Of course.
But it'll be available then for, like a pickup item. So if you're already going and getting a figure from him and getting some parts, and I know he's going to be carrying paint soon, you can throw in a set of brushes as well. So
speak of the Wolf King, and the Wolf King shall appear. He's in the chat. Say my name and I'm here.
There you go.
Very good. Well, I mean, the chat is blowing up. A lot of people are just congratulating you on this. A lot of people saying, take my money. I want one. So you heard it here. I know people are going to start making their list of items that they need to pick up at Legion's Con. Hopefully your Tales of the Crossroads figures are on that list already. I would suggest that this is probably the next thing that's going to be on people's list. This action figure customizing paintbrush set, again, available at Legion's Con. Curtis, genuinely, congratulations. This is a very, very cool thing. I'm super proud and happy for you.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. It's an exciting moment. And, even if it's awesome to hear that people are excited, even if they weren't, I know that I will be able to use them because they're the ones that I use on a regular basis anyhow.
Yes,
so,
absolutely.
Yeah.
So kind of kicking into the year ahead of us, the year that we've had so far, I should say. This was an interesting year because traditionally, the end of year wave, the G-Con wave, traditionally bleeds into the new year.
Yeah.
And this was the first one that we didn't do that. We actually capped it off before the first of the year, in large part because, especially now that we're juggling 4 lines, Mythic Legions, Cosmic, Figure Obscura, and now Infinite Legions. Our biggest enemy is the calendar. Like trying to figure out where we can squeeze in these different offerings is definitely a challenge. So when we take up 2 solid months, because that's really what the Legion's Con debut wave, the G-Con wave runs for. It's about 2 whole months. So to run that for 2 months is already a big ask. To bleed it into January just makes it even more of a challenge. So that's why this year we said, you know what, we're not going to do that into January. We're going to, cap it there. We're going to start January with something fresh. And the first thing that we started this year with was actually the first 10 years book. So something pretty different from us that I, for one, am very, very excited about. Is this something I don't know what I know you joke all the time that you have to have Darla read to you, but there's going to be a lot of pictures in this as well. So is this something that you're excited for?
Oh yeah, I mean it's got pictures. I'm good. I've seen some of the updated Trevor photography and it looks great.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean it. Having Darla read to me, it keeps her around, keeps her close. So I'm good. I'm good with having her read. So
I'm going to bring this up here.
But that you teased at MesquiCon a couple years ago, so I was excited for this.
We did. That was the first time that we teased the first 10 years book. And what we're looking at here is actually the final cover. So very similar to what we have seen previously for the cover, but there were a few shots on there that Trevor wanted to replace, notably Alithia, Poxus, and Artemis are all new shots here versus when you've seen it in the past. I'm actually super excited to announce, and I kind of mentioned this last week that it was about ready to go, but I just buttoned up all these files, sent it over to Chris to get to the factory. So this is on the way to the factory now, getting ready to go to print soon. So that's very exciting, especially because unlike toys that the pre-production process is as lengthy as it is, I'm hoping that there's going to be a much quicker turnaround on the book in terms of being able to get this to print and get this in hand.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm so looking forward to this. I mean, I've got all of the Masters ones that they did with the, between the toys and the lore and the cartoon and like all those Dark Horse ones. And these kind of like tabletop books are just really cool.
They're a lot of fun. And putting this book together was it was a blast, absolute blast. And, what I really wanted to do, and I've said this a few times, but for those that may not have heard me say it, my goal with this was, if you are someone that's been into Legion since the very, very beginning, like myself, I wanted it to feel like a walk down memory lane. Like I wanted you to flip through these pages because, beyond just photos of each of the characters, like every single wave has at least a page about that wave. And like I dug out all the marketing material. So like all those teasers that you saw, all of the All-Stars votes, those grids that I would put up, all of those are in the book. So it's very much kind of like, oh, wow, I remember seeing that on the Cabal the day that got posted, or on the Horsemen's Instagram page. So all of that stuff is in there as well. But someone who's newer to the line, I wanted this to be kind of like a history. And I wanted you to be able to go back and kind of, in some small way, experience all of those highlights for that first 10 years. And then every figure's got a little bit of information about it. There's some cool behind the scenes stuff. Dude, there's some stuff in here that I hadn't seen before. Like stuff from Nate and stuff from Eric that they dug out. There's some really cool stuff in there that was genuinely new to me.
That's very cool. Yeah, I mean, it's to see some of those things that we don't know of is really going to be awesome. And then just to, see it all pulled together in one book, like in one place. I mean, I've told people this numerous times. I keep multiple Source Horseman tabs open on my phone, every day. I've got one for Mythic, one for Cosmic, and then I've got a spare one that I can just bounce around to. A lot of times it's on like the Armory, which, tells you like what weapons are used for what figures and stuff. Hasn't been updated for a little bit. I got to say, whoever's running that page, missing out a little bit. But
Joe Vassopolo just asked me to update it because even he uses it.
But yeah, I mean, it's a great resource. But to have it like this and have it on a table, it'll be a great talking piece too. Yeah, very excited for this.
And I mean, you mentioned Source Horseman. That was one of the challenges too. Was like, how do we make this different than Source Horseman?
Yeah.
Like, how do we add more to it? And I mean, most of the stuff in this book is out there in one form or fashion, but the nature of how how quickly the news cycle changes and how quickly the internet buries things in favor of something else that's newer and fresher. Some of this stuff would be hard to find. And because they've joked for years at the studio, even before I was full time, when they would have a debate on something, they would message me and they would ask what the answer was. Cause like they would forget and I would remember all that stuff because again, super fan. So to be able to take all of that and kind of put it in here was a ton of fun. And I think people are really, really going to enjoy this book once they get it in hand. Because beyond being interesting, like, dude, it's cool. It's beautiful. I mean, there's a lot of art in it. Obviously, there's tons of Trevor's photos. It's not just his turns. There are a fair number of his environment shots that are in it as well. So it's cool. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think my opinion is I think that when people get it and they go through it, I feel like the comment I'm going to hear is it was a lot more reading than I thought it was going to be. Like, I thought it was going to be a picture book, and it's got lots of pictures, but it's a lot of content.
Is it too late to cancel my order?
It is not. No, I meant it is. I misspoke.
No, I'm super excited for it. I feel like, in the past we've heard people say things like, well, there's not enough lore for this. There's not enough this and that. And I think it's there. It's just like you said, you've had to like go and maybe search for it. I mean, the bios contain a certain amount, and then you guys have things when you reveal a G-Con wave, you have like a little write-up or something. And so there's a lot of this stuff out there. It's just like not collected into a spot that's easy to digest. So this is going to be really cool. One of the Legion shows I really enjoy watching is the Latin Legions. I don't know if you get much time watching theirs, but they do this segment where they'll like face off two characters, right? And when they do it, they read the full bio of the character. And so then you're like listening to the bio of each and you're like, oh, wow, well, that thing gives that person an advantage, but this thing makes this person like, if they even touch you, you're like done. And it, so you have to like think through all that. And it's just kind of cool. It like, helps to refresh your memory on some of these older characters.
That's awesome. On the subject of books, this book is obviously a catalog of the first 10 years. There is some lore in it because some of the stuff that we presented along with the waves like Rising Suns, and then also obviously the bios. But once I wrapped this up, it was funny because I was kind of not doing much with the Rise of the Dark 4 book because I wanted to finish this one first. Like juggling two books started to become a lot. So I ended up putting the Rise of the Dark 4 down and I finished this book. But I was so enthused by finishing it that when I jumped back into Rise of the Dark 4, I hit it like really hard. So there's 5 sections of Rise of the Dark 4 Volume 1. And before I left for Joe Fest last week, I finished section 3. So I'm probably more than halfway done that book right now. When I say done, it's written, it's fully edited. These are the page layouts. So because that book is meant to be very visual, I'm genuinely laying out every single page, every single spread individually. So I'm, 300 pages in or whatever, 200 and something pages in, and every single one, it's not like just saying in Microsoft Word, okay, just write this out, or even just, every 20 pages, I want to put an illustration. It's very unique where, some of the illustrations, the text wraps around it. It's a different kind of book. I want it to be almost like a beautiful art book that, oh, by the way, has a full story in it as well. But that process is going really, really well.
That's awesome. Did you find any characters as you were going through the 10-year book that it made you more excited to write about them in the Rise of the Dark 4?
Not so much because I'm so familiar with the characters already. On the flip side, though, there are characters that I wrote about in Rise of the Dark 4 that I have a much deeper appreciation for now. I've said this numerous times. I like Artemis Silvercord way more. And I always liked the figure. I thought she was a cool character, but he's now one of my favorites because of being able to write her.
That's cool. I love that little excerpt you did. It's been a while, but you did the whole Covenant of Shadows, like how they were coming together and stuff.
Yep.
Like that's one of my favorite things ever. I love it. I mean, I'm a huge Gorthok fan anyway, so I love that. But that whole little section was cool, like because you could see like them all being a little bit leery of each other as they're coming together and everything, and you know, it was really fun.
So along with the book, we also solicited a special figure, Silver Knight 2. So I know you've got certain knights that you like. I know you absolutely love Sir Enoch and Sir Elijah. Was the Silver Knight 2 one you were excited for?
I was excited for the shield. Okay. The knight itself, like that's not my favorite torso. And you know, but it's a nice little builder knight. It was a great price. The shield is amazing though. Like you gotta, for the shield alone, you gotta get this thing. So.
Yeah, and I mean this, you know, this came out. I mean, obviously, this was the last of the Wave 1 Legion builders that had not been reissued, right? So it's very cool that we were able to find a way to bring this back out, to find a way to reissue this. And, you know, at one point we had even said that, hey, let's like soup it up. Let's, you know, like make it more of a deluxe, kind of like what we did for the Gold Skeleton in the Ashes Wave. And Eric very much was like, no, let's keep it true to the Legion Builder format. Let's just update it a little bit. So I'm a big fan of being able to put something like this out, something that harkens back to those early waves and those early figures. This is going to be a fun one. And I do think that I said when we did the Back to the Ashes Wave, when we did that Blue Shield Soldier, and I was like, you know, some of these parts are going to come in handy later. This is what I was thinking of, is some of those extra parts with this Legion builder are absolutely going to be helpful here.
Yeah, you could definitely soup it up with some of those extras.
Yeah, for sure. And Joe showed some of that when we had, you know, solicited this. He showed some of those swap ideas and combos, and yeah, very, very cool. Adds a lot. Kevin saying, are there any characters that were created for the book that will definitely become a figure in the future? I mean, one already has. Mayor Caspar was created in the book. So that, nice. I mean, that is obviously Scapular's alter ego, but you know, that look in the book, the fact that he ridiculously has a blowgun, like those were things that were in the book that when we did actually, same thing with Atlas. Atlas's alternate look as Bjor the Victorious. Those are both directly from the book and from parts of those characters' story earlier on than we've met them previously. So, yeah, we're already seeing some stuff like that. Beyond that, I try not to introduce a lot of characters just for nothing. Like, we've got so many characters that I'd rather use the characters we already have, even if it's in a cameo style setting, rather than create a brand new character. I have created a couple brand new characters. I hate to say it, usually because I'm about to kill them. You know,
nice.
Like in the
Star Trek red shirts.
Yeah, that's really what it is. Well, I mean, I read a chapter a while ago about Bjor the Victorious, which is, Atlas the Conqueror's alter ego. And I read the chapter about his first fight in the Colosseum, and he kills the gladiator that he fights. Well, I created that gladiator new so I wouldn't sacrifice an existing character just for that scene there. So, but who knows?
One of my favorite things to read was there was, yes, I do read occasionally, folks. Um, they they uh, they put out a little comic book series called Icons of Evil for Master of the Universe.
Okay.
I don't know if you've ever checked them out, but it's like they've got one for Trapjaw, one for Merman, and what it did was it told you the story about who they were before, like how we know them in Masters of the Universe. So like who Trapjaw was and how he became Trapjaw, how he got the, you know, the different arm and the jaw, the metal jaw and all that. And I just think that's cool to like take those characters that you already know, you already care about, and then just to give you a little bit extra information of their backstory to make you even care about them more.
That's nice. That's cool. Couple questions here. William is asking, has the publisher given us a time frame? Well, we're actually self-publishing it. This is not going through a traditional publisher. So it's really the printer, not the publisher, that we really have to deal with here. And it's being, you know, printed through our factory. So we don't really have a time frame. But again, because the book is quicker, but the printing a book is quicker than making figures, hopefully that'll be a lot faster.
I was just checking the comments, and Joe Gonzalez says, now I want a Dead Gladiator figure. Because he is the completest of the completest. So now he has to have a Dead Gladiator.
Really Big Kid says, I wish the Silver Knight came with more than one skin tone to make army building easier. Yeah, I mean, the challenge is when you're doing a Legion builder, we got to keep the cost down. So especially faces with the detail on the eyes and everything, that is one part that certainly adds disproportionately to the cost of the figure. So had we included multiple face plates, it would have increased the price and potentially bumped it out of the Legion builder price bracket. But the good thing is that's the same helmet that comes with Sir Adalric and Sir Andrew. So you can certainly swap some of the face plates in there if you've got some extras. And it's also, you know, a faceplate that we're going to use for other stuff in the future as well. So there should be no shortage of swaps that you'll be able to do, even if they don't come with the figure out of the box.
And with the visor down, they can be whatever you want them to be.
Absolutely. Or you can pick up a paintbrush. I believe Curtis has got some that's going to be for sale soon.
There you go.
And you can paint them. Okay, so that was earlier in the year. That was January. Then we came back and we had kind of teased both of those. We had shown Silver Knight 2 at Legion's Con. We had, you mentioned that we had shown the book even before that. But then we came back with something totally different and somewhat unexpected, I think. And that was the Cosmic Character Packs. So this is something that, breathing new life into some of those Cosmic Legions figures. It's no secret that people are not popping and swapping and customizing Cosmic as much as they're doing Mythic, and it makes a lot of sense. We've got a lot more years of Mythic. We've got a lot more parts of Mythic to do that with. And, one of the challenges with some of the Cosmic stuff is unless you do want to pick up a paintbrush, it's a lot harder to customize those characters. So being able to offer some of these head packs that breathe some new life into these characters, I think was, I don't think it was a very well-received promotion. Personally, I love the way that the snake heads transform that Thygar body. And I love the fact that these two Cosmic Ladies heads, how it turns that Zeri body into a very different kind of feel.
Yeah, I mean, I love all of these paint jobs. Eric did a great job on his, and then Sherry with the female heads. And I mean, those female heads, definitely you can use those Mythic or Cosmic for sure. I mean, I'm sure that people are going to be using those on both. And then, just getting some different looks for those other Cosmic heads. It's one thing when you're in the Mythic land and a lot of the guys are, the characters are wearing armor and you can pretty much swap any head on them and you're good. But when you've got these, skin tone bodies, and for those people that don't paint, it's a little bit difficult to just jump in and do a skin tone match and that kind of thing. So yeah, it's just a really cool offering. I think this was well received as far as I could tell.
Yeah, and these are, there's a lot of cosmic happening at the factories right now. Ox Crew 1 is in production right now. These are also, if not in production, right on the cusp of production. So we're going to be seeing certainly some cosmic deliveries in the coming months. There's Cosmarium is going to be hitting, pretty soon for sure.
And this was the first thing that we saw from Eric, right? Not necessarily the first thing he worked on, but the first thing we saw from him.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think it might be the first thing he worked on. So he did some stuff for the studio that was not Legions. Like he did some outside projects. Gotcha. But this might have been the first thing. I'm trying to remember. I think this was the first thing he painted for the studio that was under the Legions banner. And we did this, like these were done before Legions Con last year.
That's cool.
Because this was one of those things where we came up with the idea, but we didn't know where we were going to drop them.
Yeah.
And we had them all painted, ready to go. And then it was like, okay, as we were planning out the calendar, because originally we were going to do Bayathair. Originally we were going to do Bayathair in November. Originally it was going to be up for sale at the same time as Reign of the Beasts. And then as we've talked about, the pricing we got back from the factory caused us to have to rethink everything that we were doing. Then we said, okay, we're going to do it in January. And then we realized that was going to cause a bunch of different problems. So we started the year having to move some things around. And this is one of the things that benefited from those moves. We didn't have a spot to drop this, but it's the whole reason why we kind of had these in our pocket ready to go. So when we had that opening, we were able to just slot this right in and do a nice little pre-order on these.
And I just think it's cool that you guys always have something going on, right? Like there's always something in the works. You're like, oh, well, this thing we need to delay. What do we? Well, we got these other 5 things in the hopper. Let's just grab one of those, just push the next thing up. So
yeah, I mean, it's helpful to be able to do that. It's exhausting, but it's helpful to be able to do that to keep this stuff moving. Because, as we talked about a little while ago, is because the calendar is such our enemy at this point. Mm-hmm. If something has to move and we don't have something to put there, it's a lost opportunity for us. We end up working from behind a little.
Yeah, for sure.
So surprises, right? So that, the Cosmic Head Packs is a bit of a surprise, but probably the biggest surprise we've dropped this year was this guy right here.
Yep.
The legendary
it was kind of like the way that you guys teased it. It was almost like a disappointment at first, like because people were Necronominus was coming out, right? Yeah. And people were like hoping that you would have it at the cons that you were going to at that point. And they were like, hey, are you gonna have it? You're gonna have it. And you guys came out with the announcement, hey, we're not gonna have Necronominus, but we're gonna have something legendary. And people are like, what does that mean? We don't know what you're talking about.
A lot of people seem to think it was Otho. Because we had teased Otho for Legacies at Legions Con. So a lot of people were like, oh, they're going to have Otho. They're going to have Otho. And this is what we had. When I said something legendary, of course, that's because the name of the character was the legendary Barbarian. But this idea of a touring figure, this is something that we had been mulling around for years. At one point, the Undead of Vikenfell figure was going to be a touring figure, and we just never were able to, set it up for it to actually work. So it eventually just ended up going into that retailer wave. But the way this ended up working, we got these in, We got them in right before ZoloCon. I mean, that's one of my only regrets is we didn't have it for the first couple shows of the year, but we got it right before ZoloCon, and we launched this at ZoloCon, our first ever touring figure, with the idea that these are going to come to every show we do these years. Bigger shows get more inventory, smaller shows get less inventory. And then as we get towards the end of the year, we've got a certain amount of stock that will go online at storehorseman.com. But right out of the gate, this thing became an early candidate for some people's figure of the year. And I know I was playing with it that ZoloCon weekend. I remember being in my hotel room and just playing around with it and just being like really excited for a figure that had not a lot of new parts, but just the way they were put together, it felt very new. It felt very fresh.
Yeah, I mean, it's got a bunch of different looks that you can get right out of package without mixing and matching with another figure, without painting. There's just so many options right out of the package that it's just a lot of fun. And it's got that, like kind of grittiness to it where it doesn't look like the clean, fresh knights that we've seen and stuff. Like this guy's seen some crap, right? Like this, tattered loin piece and kind of dirtiness to him, and then the swappable hair and the helmet and stuff. Like it's just a really, really cool piece. And I mean, the buzz about this thing all year. I mean, that was back in what, March for ZoloCon, and I mean, still 3 months later, like it's the talk of the town. When people are going to cons right now, are they going to have barbarians? You think I can get one? Like it's a huge thing.
Yeah, and even those hair pieces, as we were talking through which ones to do, we were trying to decide, okay, well, what color do we give it? And we knew people were just going to repaint the darn thing. So that's when we said, well, why don't we just make the hair swappable and let's include all three colors? Because so often we're like, oh, we could hold it back. We could hold back, this color and do it later. And the thing we find is that we've got so many ideas and so many things we want to do that when we decide to hold something back, it usually becomes very hard to find a way to actually get it out. So the thought became, let's shoot our shot for this first one. Let's include all three hair pieces, give people a number of different options.
Yeah, so cool.
Now, you use this recently because I think I see something in front of you there.
Yeah, I've actually got them with me here.
Yeah, so that's fun. You want to talk a little bit about what you got there?
So I was just doing the review for the Skeleton Raider, and so I had taken the helmet off of that Skeleton Raider because I thought it would be cool on the legendary Barbarian. And so I was trying that helmet on some different heads, and then I was like, well, wait a minute, what if I put the hairpiece on the skeleton? And so I threw a couple of them on, but when I got to the blonde one, I was like, yes, I've got to make this as a figure. Like that that looks amazing. So, and then, did the little skeleton legs into the boots and stuff, which pretty easy Dremel, just sliced off the bottom of the leg, dremeled around it to make a peg so that it kept all the articulation. But yeah, zero paint on this, just some dremeling and popping together. So
very cool. Yeah, I love customs like that. They just come together like that.
Yeah, I'm just playing with parts, and I was like, as soon as I put that wig on the skull, I was like, I've got to make this custom. Like, I've got to scratch this itch. It's not going to go away. So, yeah.
So that was March. Now, March also had our 2025 retailer wave. So this is something that we've done the last few years where, we come out and we do a wave specifically for retail partners. And, the last few years, it's included the new versions of the figure Obscuras that came the year before. And then we've also done a Mythic and a Cosmic figure. The 2024 retailer wave included Fisher Rice, which is possibly my favorite cosmic figure to date. I know it's pretty high on your list as well.
Yeah, it's taking my number one spot now.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really, really good one. Well, let me ask this then. How did the 2025 retailer wave stack up for you?
I mean, I think it's a home run. I really like, this set here. I think the creature looks really cool, and I'm probably gonna maybe swap out that one. I love the like the Horde kind of tribute one is amazing.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean the whole thing I just thought was really cool. So, and it's really weird. Like I think nearly all of the figure Obscuras, I've liked the retail version better than I liked the first one. And so and part of it I think is just because it's something new, it's different color. And I think the other part is that it in my mind it justifies tearing the old one apart to make customs with.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I'm actually and I've heard people say that. Like I've heard people say that, oh, I always like the second versions better. I've heard people make the insane comment that we save the better version for the retailer one, which
I don't buy that.
No, I mean, we genuinely do the one we want.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say this, only about 50% of the figures do we even know what we're going to do for the second version. Like the creature, we totally knew. The creature we knew. I mean, there was like, obviously we're going to do the green one. But like right out of the gate, Eric wanted to do that traditional literature-based version. So we very much create the version that we want, our definitive version first, and then say, okay, what else? What are we going to do? The one that I will say one that was different was this one. This black skin, dark skin color almost became the first version. And it's interesting that not only do we not save the better version for second, we actually brought the more, fully painted version first for that exact reason, because the fully painted version looks like it's a more detailed paint application because it's got some washes and everything to achieve that skin color. Yeah. So that was an example that we genuinely didn't want people to kind of say, oh, they held this one back for the second version. So we made that switch.
Yeah, I don't ever. I mean, different strokes, different folks. I don't buy the whole, holding one back or whatever. It's just, you see it and it's a different thing, and you're like, man, I like that too, and I may like it more. I didn't think that it was a guarantee that you guys were going to do the green creature. Like after seeing Trevor's photography with the black and white, I was like, man, if they give us like a grayscale black and white version, I would be all about that too. So. Yeah. I mean, it was about 50-50 in my head whether you're going to do the green or black and white.
We did talk about it. We did discuss it. So then we've got the Mythic figure. So we've got Vernalis Ardent Scale, which, very much this was designed, shortly after the Ninian came out and was so popular. Everyone was so excited for the Ninian. We always have the challenge with an in-stock item. Like everyone loves in-stock items, right? Because it's immediate gratification. You don't have to wait for the pre-order. The downside with it is we can't go to retailers with it and take actual pre-orders for it. So we could do a second run. Like we could say, okay, the Ninian sold out, the Valiant Knight sold out. Let's do a second run and we'll go to retailers and we'll get pre-orders. But whenever we think about doing that, we're always like, well, maybe let's just do something else. Like instead of just reissuing the Ninian as is, I'm going to be frank, we didn't make a small amount of Ninians. It's not like we made 500 of them and said, well, that's all that we're making. There's a decent amount. Like we look at previous figures that sell to come up with an idea of what we think the demand is going to be for this without overshooting it, right?
Yeah.
Because, we don't just want to say, well, let's just double what we think so we're covered. That would be a poor business decision. But something like Vernalis here to do another Quaddle figure allows us to hopefully kind of scratch that itch for people that want this type of figure. But for people that already have the Ninian, the idea here is this gives them something new to be excited for.
I think these might be my favorite upcoming soft goods. Like the soft goods on here are so freaking good. Yeah. And yeah, the figure looks awesome. So I'm excited for this one as well.
I'm not a huge fan of translucent pieces or figures, but I really, really dig that translucent bird on this.
Yeah. It's got that Phoenix Rising kind of look.
Yeah. And the idea, both with, this snake spell and this here, the idea was that because druids, traditionally have animal companions, or they can do like, animal shapes and stuff. They can transform into an animal. We wanted to do something with that, but all we had was, because this is before we had Ganesh and we had the little mouse. All we had available was this bird and this snake spell. So we came up with the idea of making them look like conjured type animals, conjured companions, spell companions. And I just love the way that it looked, the way it laid out.
Yeah, it came out fantastic.
Yeah. And then the last one we've got here, I mean, take this down for a second. You mentioned the Shadow Circle figure. So that's another one that Eric Miller painted that I'm pretty excited for as well. Bring him up. There we go. So this is one, I don't know if I talked about this before. So this is an idea that actually had been around for a little while. At one point, this figure and the Anthopheles figure, the Buzz-Off one that David did, they were supposed to be the next set of PowerCon debut figures. But when PowerCon canceled, we kind of didn't have a real place for them. So they went on back burner. And we decided, because we know a lot of people really love this little subset of Legions. It does open a lot of cool doors for fans to, get started with Legions. How many people have I met who Chronol was their first figure? It's very common.
I feel like that's even gotten, for me, they feel like they fit in a lot more since you guys started putting them in Cosmic.
Oh, without a doubt.
The outlandish colors just work so much better in Cosmic than it ever did at Mythic.
I've long said that I don't care for the PowerCon debut figures. I have very few of them in my actual Mythic collection. I think I have, Purplore might be the only one that I actually have. I do have a Chronol, but it's radically customized at this point. But the Cosmic ones, I had, not only do I have Operative 83 as is, I have 3 of them. Nice. All 3 of the looks. I have Scourge as is, and I will have Anthopheles and the Tusk Shadow Trooper. But yeah, this was designed at the same time, and it just needed a place to go. So it ended up slotting in nicely to this wave.
And it also speaks to like how much detail that is sculpted in these figures, because it's amazing. Where I mean, listen, I've messed with Tusk as much as anybody has messed with Tusk, right? Like I've taken them apart, I've worked them every which way, I've painted them a bunch of different ways, and all of a sudden you just paint it a certain way, you hit the certain details in the right spot, and you're like, oh my gosh, it's like it was sculpted for this character, for this tribute, right? But I never saw it in my head before. And it just speaks to how many details there are sculpted in there and how many different ways you can paint these things up. It's awesome.
My favorite thing about this, because this is actually one that I designed. This is the only PowerCon tribute figure that I've actually designed. And finding kind of that bat-like shape in that chest piece there, I think about something that you said Emil told you about customs years ago, where he said, like, look for the shapes, like look for, the silhouette of what you're trying to actually accomplish. And it's absolutely what I've done for years as well. It's great advice. So finding that bat-like shape without it being an actual bat in the chest, I think really helped sell this.
Super cool. Great design, great paint job.
Yeah, he absolutely did great. So that brought us to a couple of special projects that we had for this year. For the second year in a row, we did an exclusive figure for ZoloCon. ZoloCon takes place at the end of February, right into the beginning of March, usually. One of our 3 biggest shows of the year. We've got Legions Con, we've got Toyant, we've got ZoloCon. That's our 1, 2, 3. So, we've been going to ZoloCon for years. So last year we did Skullman. This year we did Headhunter, which is one of Mike Zolo's original characters. And what have you got there?
This is a David Williams head of himself that he had painted, and I picked up at the West Coast Mythic meetup. And as soon as I picked it up, I said, that is going right on my Headhunter because it's perfect. So it is like he's in the Cobra Kai chasing down Daniel LaRusso. So
now, is this you were a fan of the Skullman, if I'm not mistaken?
I think both of the exclusives that we've got from them so far, Skullman and Headhunter, have been fantastic. This is my figure of the year so far.
Really?
Yeah, I love this figure. So I don't know, like, maybe it's something back to childhood and having Skeletor and stuff, but something about having like the muscular body with the skull, it totally works for me. I always, when I first I actually would have probably got into Mythic Legions a couple years earlier, had Keltis had muscles instead of bones. Like when I saw that Keltis reveal, I was like, I don't want that skinny Keltis guy. If he would have had muscles, I would have been in. Yeah. But yeah, this thing's awesome.
Yeah, it's funny because I wasn't sure how Skullman was going to be received. When we did Skullman, I was like, okay, this figure's kind of a little off the wall for that reason. The fact that it had the muscle body with the skeleton head, I was just like, I don't know if our fans are really going to dig this. And it was so incredibly well received that it really did show us that, our fans dig kind of these outside little projects that even if they might not be, putting them in their headcanon alongside some of our main level characters, they're fun toys. And, we're going to talk about Infinite Legions in a little bit. The idea of fun toys is so at the top of that Infinite Legions idea. And I think this checks some of those same boxes.
Yeah, a cool figure is a cool figure, regardless of where it comes from or its story or whatever. And that figure is just awesome. I love the little like leathery loin piece, the soft goods on it. The whole thing is just awesome. So
I like the fact that we could use the boots because that was the one thing when we did Skullman, we didn't have access to those boots. So we had to compromise. And at that point, the only leather boots we had were the ones that had the greaves on the front. So I still think it works, but that was a legitimate compromise based on the parts library.
Yeah.
We'll go in a very different direction. So, ZoloCon is an interesting show and project to work on because, Mike has the license for Warrior Beast. So that's what we're doing. We're working with him and his license. But another show that we've now done for a few years is Toyanta. And Toyanta quickly has been, it will be our number 2 show this year only behind Legions Con. So really great show, really fun weekend. It's actually my favorite show of the year to do outside of Legion's Con. It's certainly the show that I spend the most money, although it's weird. I spent more at Toylanta than any other show, but I came home with a lot. The last two shows, Shop the Curiosity and this weekend at Joe Fest, I spent almost as much money, but came home with like one thing. So a little bit of a balance there. But yeah, so for Toylanta this year, we created a brand new character for them. This character, ATL-25. Toylanta's always had kind of a very, G.I. Joe military style theme to it. So we wanted to kind of touch on that. And contrary to popular belief, we didn't try to make Roadblock.
It's not Roadblock.
Literally, this had won by default. I said this when we were putting this figure together, there's only so many parts that we could use. Like this body build, because originally this also does come with the fabric arms. And that was the original build. Because trying to find parts in our library that works for this type of figure, we're pretty much looking at Novian. Like at this point, it's the Novian parts. We didn't want to use the Magnus head because we had just used it on the Legion's Con figure. We didn't want to use the Attila head because we had just used it on the Fisher Rice figure. So we were running out of heads to use that like normal human heads pretty quickly. So this one ended up winning by default. And yeah, it ended up becoming a figure that clearly has some Roadblock-like design cues to it. But we intentionally tried to change the colors so it wouldn't be Roadblock. But hey, it still fits that kind of trope if that's what you're looking for.
I mean, cool figure is a cool figure.
Yep.
So regardless of what people think it looks like. So
now, you're a big Cosmic fan. Is this one that I see it right in front of you there, but is this one that you were excited for?
Heck yeah. This thing is awesome, man. Now, I will be honest, I didn't feel the need to call up a bunch of mules for me and stuff and to pick it up because I didn't feel like I needed some of the exclusive parts.
Yep.
But the figure itself, like that paint job, the camo paint job that Sherry did on the legs, the way that it comes together with just that big kind of artillery look, it's just super cool, man.
Ish was saying this weekend that camo gun is his favorite part of the whole set.
Yeah, I could see that.
This I thought was fun because when we put it together and when Eric saw both this figure and that Zeri figure with the Thrace head on it, it really kind of made him excited for the potential for these parts and how, some of these types of pieces can be used in these different ways. So yeah, this was one that was very well received, and it's been exciting to see. I was just at Joe Fest this weekend to see some of that crowd get excited for a figure like this, where, as cool as, some of our Mythic figures and Barbarians, like this, the way that Barbarian hits for certain fantasy fans, this type of a figure hits for some fans of these types of lines. And while we don't have plans to do, a military style line, doing some, one-off figures like this is something, the potential that we have to do that is very, very cool.
Well, I mean, I know this isn't Cosmic, but this is in Cosmic. I mean, for me, this is Cosmic. So, and I there's a sect of people out there that are like, no humans in Cosmic and all this and that. I say, bring it on. I mean, if at this point with you doing 4 lines, there's going to be some stuff that's going to hit for certain people and it's going to not hit for other people. And I think there's enough people out there that would love to see humans like this in Cosmic in some sort of space military vibe that would just eat this up. So
I agree. And I mean, I go back to, one of the strengths of Mythic Legions since the beginning is the fact that it's got a bit of open canon, right? It's, there is a story, but because it's not like something that is so incredibly well known with decades of lore behind it, it's like, do what you want. I mean, all of our dwarves are not heroic. For years, I had all of my dwarves displayed together because I liked that idea, driven by Lord of the Rings, of like this dwarven kingdom. And they always felt heroic to me. So, that was my headcanon for years. You're able to do that. If we release something that doesn't fit your collection or the way you want to display your cosmics, don't get that one. Like, or better yet, get it and put the alternate head on it, because we give you 2 or 3 heads. So you definitely have the ability to mix and match these pieces so they fit the display that's right for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for a con exclusive or con exclusive figure that then gets released later with less parts, I think this is exactly what you'd want to see, right? It's a figure that doesn't necessarily have to go in the line. If you're a completist, you could probably not have this and be okay with, Cosmic and Mythic. It's one that the exclusive parts are nice, but you don't have to have them, right? And it's, and then you have a chance to get it later on. I think this is absolutely perfect. And then once you get it, you can figure out where you want to put it in your collection, right? Because it's kind of open. So I love this kind of con figure. I think that's great.
Have you seen the customs? I mean, obviously the very Space Marine Aliens customs that Mark Calvo's been doing.
I just did how'd they do that with him this past Monday. And we were talking about some of that stuff, and his work has been absolutely phenomenal. So
dude, top to bottom, Mark's work is incredibly impressive. Those in particular are like just next level inspired.
Absolutely. I love talking to him about it. It was great. I was like, it's like you're mixing like the crew from Aliens and the crew from Predator and just like throwing them together. And he goes, that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm like, okay, cool. Awesome.
All right, Curtis, that brings us to the big guy. So,
well, the big guy and his wave, right? Because it became a whole thing.
Literal, so teased at Legions Con. At Legions Con, we had the Ashen Skeleton and Zombie in the case, weren't even intended to be figures, because that was the point where at Legions Con, it looked like we knew what we were doing with Bayathair. We didn't. We got the pricing on Bayathair, I think, a week before Legions Con. So we had about 7 days to completely rethink what we were doing in a way that it still presented like everything we were doing was intentional. Now, looking back on everything, I'm so thrilled the way things worked out. I mean, I would have loved a cheaper price from the factory, so we could have given a cheaper price to everybody else. But things worked out the way they were supposed to, separating this pre-order from the rest of the wave, and doing it the way that we did, getting kind of that, because we were very clear that this is not going to be something we're making extras of to sell later. Like, this was your shot to get this figure. And I cannot speak highly enough about how the community came together, including for that, telethon at the end.
That was fun.
Curtis, I want to do another big item just so we can do that again. Like, that was so much fun, dude.
Yeah, that was a blast, man. I had no idea how well it would go, especially like the 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning time frame. Like, is anybody going to be watching? And we had steady viewership the whole time. Like, people were there, they were playing games with us. we're having a great time. And then that last finish with all the super chats and giving away dragons, it was wild.
It was incredible. I mean, all of us in the studio just afterwards were just shaking our heads like, man, we are so damn lucky. Like we are just blessed to be where we are, to have the fans that we have. But this is awesome, man. I'm super, super excited for everything we got in this wave. As we were getting towards that, final weekend, really those questions about like, okay, how much juice do we have in the tank? Can we unlock Bayathair's Fury? Going to Toyanta right before the end, for me, felt like a switch got flipped. Like, because that is such a show that have so many toy fans who didn't really know who we were. Like, dude, I met a lot of people this weekend at Joe Fest who came up and were like, yeah, we saw you for the first time at Toyanta. We bought our first legions there. We backed the dragon. And it was like, met a number of people that was their story. And it blew me away to hear that. So the buzz in that room, the fact that like people were walking in and immediately seeing Bayathair, and there was just that level of excitement, it just carried us all the way through to the end here. And then we get this. So I'm curious, I don't think I've asked you this question, taking Bayathair out of the equation, because dude, he's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
What figure in this assortment are you most excited for?
The Flaming Knight.
Yeah,
by far. It's not, I mean, everything's great, but that Flaming Knight, and not even like the extra set. The extra set's great, but I love the original set, how you've got like that metal armor going into the translucent. Like this look right here, I was like, take my money, whatever it means, like whatever this costs, I don't care. This thing is just absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, that idea to fade to that burning thing, it's like one of those things that when we were discussing it, it was like you're trying to explain what you want, and Cameron nailed it. Like, Cameron did such a great job, like using a paint effect to really look like a real world. Like, though that armor looks like it's like burning the way it is, it looks like that metal is like superheated. It absolutely blew, when I saw the paint job on it, it absolutely blew me away.
Yeah, I love this thing so much, and the rest of the stuff is great. I mean, we've talked about it before, but like when you look at like the overall like all in cost, if you got the extras and stuff, and for the dragon and the wings and all these figures and the extra head and stuff, the flame effect, like this is a wave. This isn't just the dragon. Like, I know dragon was the story, but this was like an entire wave, and it's an amazing wave plus a dragon. So.
And that was the goal. Like, when we were talking through this, we wanted everything to unlock, because if we got to those certain thresholds, it gave us enough room to, be able to reasonably release all of this stuff, and still come out where we needed to come out to make this project viable. But that was the idea, that like, hey, this is a mini wave. I mean, it is literally a 5-figure wave plus a dragon.
It was an interesting time period too, because I think it brought out the absolute best in the community, but it also brought out some of the worst in the community. And the night that you're on here, and it's the last week of the campaign, and you're on your show, and Joe's sending you pictures, and Joe's over the moon, and you're over the moon, and you send it to Eric, and Eric's over the moon, and you're like, okay, guys, I'm going to show you this, but it's not finished. This isn't professional photography. This, like, you give all the disclaimers that, and then all of a sudden the pictures start hitting the cabal, and like people are like, oh, well, the, mustard this and this and that. And it was just like, And then like 2 days later or a day later, once we got like the actual photos, all those people disappeared. All those comments either got retracted or those people just kind of went back in the woodworks because this thing's phenomenal. And it's like, it just, come on, guys, just live in the moment a little bit. So,
yeah, this is going to be the one. I mean, obviously, if you bought Bayathair, you're getting the Fury because it's now part of the package. But of these two figures, the Fury is going to be the one that surprises people because Sir Benegar is awesome. Like nobody was looking at Benegar, especially once he was fully kitted out. And, I know you said that you're going to sell yours. But I don't know, man. I feel like because so many people were cold on the Fury when they get it in, it's a cool looking figure. It's definitely one of those that, and we've seen this time and time and time again, that you get it in hand and you're like, yeah, this really feels good.
I am planning on selling mine, but it's not because it's not awesome. Like this thing is phenomenal. It's because I have a sickness and I ended up getting 3 dragons to paint and I needed to offset that cost somehow. And so selling a figure helps to offset some of that cost.
Fair enough.
It's a mental illness. So
well, you had me at you bought 3 dragons. So right there. So obviously huge. And for people that are looking for an update on Bayathair, I don't have an update on Bayathair. It's going through the process. It is a big, big project. I said at the time of the sale, we were further along in the process than we normally are because we had to do so much with the factory just to get pricing and stuff. But even though we're further along the process, it's also such an unprecedented piece. Like when Bayathair lands in people's hands, I really do think that how ambitious this project was is going to become very, very clear. I mean, I am a large toy collector. I have a lot of toys in this room. I have a lot of toys from a lot of different companies in this room. I don't have anything that combines the level of detail, paint, and size that this thing includes. I have things that combine elements of those. I have things that are huge. I have things that are incredibly sculpturally detailed, incredibly well painted. But to put them all together, I don't have anything that I have seen that actually matches this. I think that gigantic Joy Toy, I'm not a Joy Toy Warhammer collector, so I don't know what it is, but they did that giant, I think it is a mech actually, that giant mech-like thing, that, which I haven't seen in person, but that feels like it might be the closest in terms of level of ambition.
Yeah, I mean it's just it's a masterpiece when you just break it down from the articulation, the sculpt, and then the paint job. I was lucky enough to talk with Sherry about how she went about painting that thing, and I just can't wait to get that. It's just going to be awesome.
So that brings us to our next kind of drop that we did this year, and this one was another surprise. So we backed up Bayathair, which was not a surprise and, was something that people were heavily anticipating, with our first figure Obscura release of the year, and a very different kind of figure Obscura, one that, as a studio, we certainly were curious how it was going to be received. I've mentioned before that we were very careful in how we approach this character because Ganesha, who we're looking at here, is a character from an active religion. This is a character that is worshipped the world over. So I know you love figure Obscura drops. You've mentioned before there's nothing else like it. And I know that this is one that you ended up being pretty excited to get.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think There's a lot of things I like. I'm trying to label my favorite thing about Figure Obscura, but there's a lot. I mean, it's first of all, it's just a wild weekend from the tease, the reveal, Dork Layers video, you jumping on Saturday Day Live, the going through the reading material, which Darla reads to me. And then, within like a week or two, you've got it in hand and you're able to mess around with this thing. It is a whirlwind. But then the other part that I really love about it is it's a quick way for you guys to interject new parts into the line. And so when I look at a Figure Obscura, I do look at the overall, like what you're presenting, what are you giving to me as a figure? But then I start mentally breaking down all the parts. How are they going to use that again? What are they going to use that for? Oh my gosh, look at this big body that they just gave us. And yes, right now, this is the only belt that goes with that big body, but I'm sure we're going to have other belts down the road that goes with this body and, that kind of stuff. So just looking at all, and then all of that jewelry there, like you look at it and you go, well, they're not going to do this one time. Like these pieces are going to find their way into other figures at some point. So yeah, it's just that like cool, like adding to the library and just mentally checking off, okay, well, this is a new piece and that's a new piece. So
yeah. And I can't state enough how important this line has become to Four Horsemen Studios for a few reasons. It does a similar job to what those PowerCon debut figures did, but in a more expansive way. Because obviously the PowerCon debut figures are tapping into that Motu audience, right?
Which some of them are already your fans anyway.
Exactly. I mean, it's not like a lot of those fans are not familiar with Four Horsemen Studios and the pedigree that they bring to Masters of the Universe. But when I look at the sales numbers for a Figure Obscura drop and the number of buyers who are first-time customers at Four Horsemen for those drops, it's incredibly impressive. Like, it absolutely brings people in. The example that I always remember is Tom Whalen. So Tom Whalen, absolutely wonderful artist. We've worked with him on those Ox Crew posters, right? Huge fan.
Great job, by the way.
When he reached out to me and told us what a fan he was of the lines and would love to collaborate. I mean, I was so geeked out because I was a fan of his art. Like, I was like, oh, dude, I love Tom's art. This is amazing. So it was so cool to work with him. And when I was talking to him at that first project, and he told us that Krampus was his first figure, that he's like, yeah, I mean, I knew who you guys were, but I never picked one up until Krampus. And as soon as I got it in hand, I went right to Big Bad Toy Store and grabbed this and this and this and this. Absolutely amazing. So,
and that's what I wonder. I know you said like Figure Obscura brings in a lot of first time buyers, but I wonder how many of them after they get the Figure Obscura then go down the rabbit hole.
Like the amount of people that start with Figure, I can track this. The amount of people that start with Figure Obscura and then make other purchases, especially now that the store is like open 24/7. It's substantial. It absolutely helps us grow our fan base, and it brings new people into this Legions community. But beyond just the pure like black and white sales, like, hey, this opens up doors to new customers. On the creative side, working with Eric and seeing how like this fulfills this, allows him to scratch a creative itch that Mythic and Cosmic do not. And that's not taking anything away from Mythic or Cosmic. That's just a different itch. Like, working within your own worlds is incredible, and we would never not want to be able to do that. It's amazing. But being able to change gears a little bit and work with some of these characters that, he has an affinity either for the story or the look of the character, or it touches on something that he remembers from his childhood. Those are all incredible things. And I know that it helps him like reset and recharge for the rest of the lines as well. And every line benefits because of Figure Obscura, not just because of the parts library, like you mentioned.
Yeah, it's like a palate cleanser, you know. It's like just a different way for him to kind of, you know, get that out and then move back to the other. So
yeah, absolutely. So I got a question here from Nuno saying there's been a lot of new and cool things this year, but I think Mythic Legions has taken a backseat in relation to other projects. Any new Mythic news soon? Well, it is a challenge, certainly, when you are juggling 4 waves. I mean, we did just talk about Bayathair, which was a pretty substantial, Mythic release this year.
And in terms of what's gotten delivered, I mean, we just got Necronominus, and several people are now getting All-Star 6.
Yeah.
I mean, that's 2 really big waves full of some amazing figures. If anything, like I've been feeling like this is the year of Mythic, right?
Yeah.
Like Mythic really has come back with a vengeance, getting all this stuff that we've gotten so far. I mean, I understand what he's saying. Like there hasn't been like a full-on wave besides the Bayathair stuff, but we've got a lot of stuff delivered so far this year.
We have, and I'm going to talk about deliveries in a moment as well. But specifically to address the Mythic taking a back seat, I don't disagree. Like, I do see how that could be perceived. And all I can say is buckle up, because Mythic is going to hit hard in the second half of the year. Like, Nuno, I'd like to talk to you in December at the end of the year, and you thinking, and again, dude, I agree with you. Like, I agree the first half has been light on Mythic. Let's talk in December, and I'm sure you'll be like, okay.
I mean, had you guys not revealed Bayathair in November, I don't think we would be saying that, right? Like if all of a sudden it just dropped out of nowhere in March, we would say this is the most amazing Mythic year ever, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I mean, like I said, that was such a big project. It was such an undertaking that, by design, some of the other things we've had to do this year have been scaled back a little bit. Offerings like that Cosmic Head Pack or the Book in the Night, smaller offerings, or, obviously the thing that we just got done, which was Infinite Legion. So not going to spend a ton of time on Infinite because this has kind of dominated the show recently. I talked a lot about this last week, but I will just thank everyone who supported these figures, Faded and Phanost. One of my favorite projects I've ever gotten to work on at Four Horsemen Studios. So there's a video. You obviously saw the reveal special, Curtis, and you saw the video that Brad put together, right?
Yeah.
That was largely shot. The stuff at Matt's house was shot, during a visit one day that we all went up there. And Brad had so much footage that he was cutting it, and he found himself just like listening to 10 minutes of conversation or 8 minutes of conversation without wanting to cut it. And he was like, this is fascinating stuff. So we're going to put it up soon, but he actually has, I think it's almost an hour long cut that is just like fly on the wall, us at Matt's house that day, looking around stuff and talking and just geeking out about art and toys.
That's awesome.
Dude, it was incredible. I mean, it was
not only is it I mean, it's a cool project, and the figures came out fantastic, but it's just awesome that you guys, for the relationship that you've had with him over the years, to be able to work on something together. It's just really cool.
It was great. And it's a great way to start Cosmic. It's a great way to start Infinite Legions, because it really set us up for how we're going to approach these in the future. But as I've said numerous times, when you see the other stuff that we have coming, it's going to be all over the place in terms of the types of properties we work with and the types of figures that we release.
It's going to be a fun time.
She looks pretty familiar.
Yeah, it's my prized possession right there.
Oh.
I was doing a show recently, and they asked me if you could only save one toy. Your house is on fire. You can save one toy. What is it? That's it right there.
Oh boy!
So
absolutely touched. Thank you. So those are the things that we've released so far this year. All of the, I shouldn't say released, but all of the pre-orders we've done. But you just alluded to two things that I think are very, very important to touch on as well. And that is the fact that both the Necronominus wave shipped towards the start of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And then All-Star 6, which was the follow-up to the Necronominus wave. All-ins for those have gone out. We've started to ship some of the singles, and the container with the rest of the singles is due to arrive in the next couple of weeks. Once that happens, all the rest of the single Four Horsemen orders will go out along with retailer orders, and then retailer street date is, as of right now, August 18th. So you mentioned that, you know, the year of Mythic, and outside of pre-orders, those two waves being in hand, I agree with you, have been a really big part of the story of the first half of this year.
Well, and I think, you know, no offense to any of the waves that came before Necronominus, but I think Necronominus is where it really kicked up in terms of soft goods, parts that you guys were like the tooling. Like there's just, you guys threw a little bit more caution to wind, and we're doing some crazy things. And so getting these figures in hand now, it's like, man, they're just really, really good. I mean, I'm going through and doing these exploded figure reviews, and I'm like, there's so many parts, like it's going to take forever to cover this, but they're really awesome. And I know you build that as like the year of Necronominus a couple of years ago, like when we were going through this. Yeah. This really feels like the year of Necronominus, because this is where we're getting it in hand, and we're like seeing all this stuff, and it's like, man, it's just crazy cool.
Yeah, it's interesting. Dorklair is in the chat here, and he's mentioning that we've had 23 Mythic figures released so far this year, 11 Necronominus, 11 All-Star 6, plus the legendary Barbarian. Yeah, that's a lot.
That's a lot of figures.
It is. It is a lot of figures. We're not done yet.
And there's not a dud in the group either. Like you look through it, and it's not, you know.
Yeah,
there's not a one that I look. I mean, even the All-Stars, like you could say, okay, maybe the All-Stars because they're older figures, but they're I mean, a lot of them were very expensive, you know, up until now. And they look great. They came out fantastic. So
yep. You know, what you just said, I think is important, is, you know, that Necronominus wave kicked it up a notch. Like, you know, Bayathair was a game-changing wave. And then Alithia introduced those leather parts and those fabrics, that's a wow. Okay. I mean, those are so useful. You know, Poxus introduced the brutes. It's got the more soft goods in it, but Poxus
start getting the wizards. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, it definitely filled some gaps, but you're right. Necronominus, for a number of reasons, really elevated the game, but that kind of elevation carried through with Rising Suns and with Reign of the Beast.
Oh yeah, for sure. So
this ride that we're on right now it's not stopping. Like the way these waves hit and felt like they had so much new to them, and they added so much to the Legion's library and story. That's what we're going to see for these upcoming waves as well.
I mean, you look at something like Maxilius the Harvester, right? And it's like when you guys showed that, we finally got a bare bone skeleton. But in the same figure, we also get a Grim Reaper. And in the same figure, we also get this, like, you know, the guy with his eyes fused shut. And, you know, we get 3 looks from the same character. You go into Elijah and Enoch, and you get like the best Templars we could have ever imagined getting,
Yeah.
and it just ramps up from there. Like the one that I wasn't expecting to like was Sir Andrew. Like when we were going through it, I was like, I don't know if this is going to be for me. And then I go through it and I'm looking at the soft goods and like the effects and stuff. And I'm like, man, this thing is just awesome. Like I even did a thing in my review where I kind of compared him to like Lord Vateris, because I felt like they were kind of similar in terms of like the armor tone and stuff like that. And you look at like the soft goods on Vateris versus Sir Andrew, or you look at like the paint apps and just the different things. The fact that you've got, Lord Vateris has that visor that kind of you have to take off and then put up versus sliding it up and down. So much has changed in the line over the last several years and yet the price has remained relatively the same.
Yeah.
So it's just like we just keep getting more and more for our money, which you can't say that for most lines. So
no, for sure. And I mean, it's not without challenges. We are making toys in a very challenging time right now.
Mm-hmm.
But like we've always said, there's a lot of things we cannot control. How cool we make these toys and the value that we add to them are things that we absolutely can control. And those are things that we're very, very focused on. The Sir Andrew figure, I felt like the face, like the portrait paint was possibly some of the best like human face paint on one of our figures that I've seen to date.
It's amazing, and not only the paint, but the sculpt too. The sculpt on that faceplate, so good, so much detail in the sculpt, and then the paint on top of it, and then the fact that you've got some amazing painters at the studio, but the fact that you're able to send that over there, and the factory is able to reproduce that paint scheme and do it so great is phenomenal.
Couple quick questions. Really big kid. Any more word on the All-Star 6 orders that weren't all-ins? I literally just mentioned that. Singles are going out now. The remainder of the single order, and I say singles, what I'm saying is not all-ins. What I'm saying is I'm not saying you ordered a single figure, but you didn't order the all-in. You kind of went a la carte. That container is going to be in within the next few weeks, and the remainder of those will go out. Expect shipping to pretty much continue through all of July into early August. Dustin also said, as a newer collector, I love all Mythic Legions figures and really enjoy watching Mythic Customs and art by Akerman. Can't wait to attend Legions Con.
Can't wait to see you there.
Absolutely. Well, I think that comment is a great way to end tonight's stream. Curtis, thank you very much for this little rundown of memory lane, or at least the last 6 months. As I said at the start, it's been an amazing start to the year, but even more so because I know what's coming. Like, I know that this is going to be quite literally the coolest year for Four Horsemen Studios and Legions products, and we are just getting started. So good stuff to come, man.
Very awesome. I'm looking forward to it.
Okay. With that, everyone, I'm going to say good night. I will not be here next week with Mythic Conversations. So no Mythic Conversations next week. Until next time, I'll talk to you all soon. Thank you all for joining. Hey, everyone, are you still here? So I said that I'm not going to be here next week doing Mythic Conversations, but I have a feeling that I'm going to see in next week anyway.